Grandma, don't look at her face. Look at her plate. That's how it started. Not with shouting, not with a crash, but with a whisper so quiet it barely existed, and yet somehow cut through everything. The laughter, the clinking forks, the soft hum of jazz playing in the background. I turned slowly. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. My grandson Milo, 8 years old, small hands, always gentle, was gripping my sleeve under the table like he was trying to anchor himself. His fingers trembled. Not playfully, not nervously. This was fear. "What is it?" I asked, keeping my voice light, calm. The kind of calm adults use when they don't want the room to change. Across from us, my son Daniel was mid-story, laughing at his own joke. Beside him, his wife Lena smiled politely, cutting into her chicken with precise, careful movements. Everything looked normal. So why did Milo feel like the only one seeing something the rest of us couldn't? He leaned closer, his voice even lower this time, almost brushing against my ear. "Grandma, something's wrong." "Now tell me, what would you do? Ignore it? Smile it off? Assume it's just a child's imagination?" That's what I wanted to do. But Milo isn't the kind of child who invents problems. He notices things. Small things. The kind adults miss because we're too busy pretending everything makes sense. I felt it then. A shift. Nothing visible, nothing loud, just wrong. I glanced at Lena again. Her posture was perfect. Her expression calm. Her fork lifted, lowered, lifted again. Normal. Too normal. Milo's grip tightened. "Look," he whispered. So I did. Slowly. Casually. Like it didn't matter. My eyes dropped from Lena's face, down to her plate. And in that exact moment, my breath caught. Something about it wasn't right. I didn't understand it yet. I couldn't explain it, but I knew one thing for certain. Milo wasn't imagining anything. And whatever was wrong, it had been sitting right in front of us the entire time. Something was wrong. Not loud, not obvious, but the kind of wrong that creeps in quietly and refuses to leave once you notice it. I kept my eyes on Lena's plate, forcing myself not to react too quickly. At first glance, it looked like any other meal. Roasted chicken, green beans, a small portion of potatoes. Perfectly ordinary. So why did my chest feel tight? I blinked, looked again, and then it hit me. The food wasn't changing the way it should. You know how a plate looks when someone's eating? Messy, uneven, pieces missing in natural places. This wasn't like that. The chicken had cuts, neat ones, but no clear bites taken out of it. The vegetables had shifted, but not in a way that made sense. It looked arranged, like someone pretending to eat. I felt Milo's fingers twitch against my sleeve. "She's not eating it," he whispered. I swallowed slowly, keeping my face neutral. "Shh," I murmured, though my eyes never left the plate. Across the table, Lena lifted her fork again. "Watch closely," I told myself. The fork dipped down, picked something up, rose towards her mouth. Normal. Except, when I glanced back at the plate, The section she had just taken from didn't look disturbed at all. Not even slightly. A cold feeling slid down my spine. Maybe I missed it, I thought. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe... Mom, you okay? Daniel's voice cut in suddenly. I forced a smile, blinking up at him. Of course, just thinking. Thinking? No. Watching. Because now I couldn't stop. Lena continued eating, or at least going through the motions. Her movements were smooth, controlled, almost too controlled. No hesitation, no mess, and yet no real change. Even stranger, she wasn't swallowing. Not once. Her throat stayed still, her expression unchanged. She kept talking, nodding, smiling, but never actually finishing a bite. I leaned back slightly, my heart beginning to thud louder than I wanted. What was she doing? Milo shifted closer to me. Grandma, he whispered again, more urgently this time. Look again. I did. And that's when something even stranger happened. Lena's fork lifted once more, but the piece of food on it didn't match anything on the plate anymore. The piece on her fork didn't belong there. That's the moment everything stopped feeling explainable. I leaned forward slightly, pretending to adjust my napkin, but really, I was watching that fork like it held the answer to something I didn't yet understand. Look closely. Have you ever caught something small that made everything else feel off? That was this. Because the chicken on her plate was cut into neat sections, but what sat on her fork looked shredded, uneven, like it had come from somewhere else entirely. My eyes flicked back down to the plate. No missing piece, no disturbance. So where did it come from? Milo's breathing had gone shallow beside me. I could feel it, quick, uneven. He wasn't guessing anymore. He knew. She's not eating, he whispered again, barely moving his lips. This time I didn't shush him, because now I wasn't sure how to explain what I was seeing either. Across the table, Lena smiled at something Daniel said. A soft laugh, polite, controlled. Then she placed the fork into her mouth and paused. Just for a second too long. Then she pulled it out, still smiling, still composed, but I saw it. There was no swallow. Nothing moved. A quiet pressure built in my chest. Enough. Lena, I said gently, keeping my tone light, almost casual. How's the chicken, dear? She froze. It was subtle. Anyone else might have missed it, but I didn't. Her hand stopped mid-motion. Her eyes flickered, just for a fraction of a second, before she smiled again. Perfect, she said. Just like always. Too quick. Too rehearsed. Her fork lowered again, this time pressing into a section of the plate that looked completely untouched. Except it wasn't. The piece she cut into had already been cut. I felt it then. That sharp, undeniable shift. This wasn't just strange. This was wrong. Because she's not eating it! Milo's voice broke through the room, louder than before, sharp, uncontrolled. Everything stopped. Daniel blinked, caught off guard, then chuckled awkwardly. Hey, buddy, what are you talking about? But no one else laughed, because Lena didn't. She didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. The air tightened. You could feel it, like something had just been exposed, even if no one understood what. Slowly, deliberately, Lena set her fork down. And in the silence that followed, I heard it. A faint sound. Soft, irregular. Not coming from the plate, not from the table. From her. A subtle, shifting noise, like something wasn't where it was supposed to be. That sound, once you hear it, you can't unhear it. Soft, uneven, not chewing, not swallowing. Something else. I felt my pulse in my throat now, steady and heavy, as if my body already understood what my mind hadn't fully accepted yet. Look closer. Lena sat perfectly still, her posture unchanged, her expression calm. But now it felt held together, like something underneath was straining to stay hidden. Her breathing was shallow, controlled. Too controlled. Her throat didn't move, not once. And yet, something shifted. Again, that faint, almost wet sound, subtle but undeniable. Milo pressed closer into me. I could feel the tension in his small body. "She's hiding it," he whispered. Hiding what? That question landed hard, because now I wasn't just observing anymore. I was remembering. A few weeks ago, Lena had mentioned dental surgery. Something minor, she said. Difficulty eating for a while. At the time, it made sense. Now, it didn't explain this. Not the untouched plate, not the missing pieces, not the silence inside her throat. Something wasn't adding up. I leaned forward slightly, steadying my voice. "Lena," I said, softer this time. "May I see your plate for a moment?" Daniel looked between us, confused. "Mum, what's going on?" But I didn't answer him. I was watching her, waiting. Lena hesitated, just a second. But that second said everything. Then, without a word, she slid the plate toward me. Slowly, carefully, like it mattered more than it should. I pulled it closer, and now there was no distance, no guessing, only detail. The chicken was cut into precise sections, but none of it showed the natural tearing of a bite. The vegetables had been moved around, almost strategically. Small pieces were missing, but not in a way that matched eating. It was staged, all of it. A performance. "Where is it going?" Milo whispered, his voice barely holding together. That question echoed in my mind, because he was right. If she wasn't swallowing, then where was the food? I lifted my eyes slowly from the plate, back to Lena, and this time, I didn't look at her smile. I looked at her face. Really looked. And there it was. Subtle, easy to miss, but impossible to ignore once seen. Her cheeks, slightly fuller than before. Not natural, not relaxed. Held. My voice dropped, quieter than I expected. "Lena?" She didn't respond. The room felt frozen now. Even Daniel had stopped moving. "Open your mouth." The words hung there, heavy, final. Lena's eyes met mine, and for the first time that night, her composure cracked. For a moment, no one moved. Not Daniel, not Milo, not even me. Lena just stood there, her eyes locked on mine, wide, uncertain, and finally, no longer in control. Then, without a word, she pushed her chair back. The sound scraped sharply against the floor, breaking the silence like glass. She turned and walked quickly toward the kitchen. No explanation, no denial, just left. A second passed. Then another. And then a quiet sound echoed from the kitchen. Not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. Daniel stood up immediately. "Lena?" His voice carried confusion now, and something else. Fear, maybe, or realization catching up too fast. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Because now, finally, it made sense. A minute later, Lena returned. Her face was pale, her composure thinner now, like it could fall apart at any second. She didn't sit right away. She just stood there. She started, but her voice faltered. Daniel stepped closer. "What's going on?" And that's when it came out. Not all at once, not cleanly, but enough. After her dental surgery weeks ago, something changed. Not physically, psychologically. Every time she tried to swallow solid food, her body resisted. Panic, gag reflex, a deep, uncontrollable aversion. So she adapted, or at least tried to. She learned to pretend. Cut the food, move it around, lift the fork, smile, talk. And when no one was looking, hold it. Keep it in her mouth until she could excuse herself and get rid of it privately. Tonight, she misjudged it. Too much food, too long at the table, nowhere to hide it. Daniel stared at her, stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. "I didn't want to be difficult," she said quietly. "Or broken." The word hung there. Broken. Milo squeezed my hand tighter, but this time it wasn't fear. It was release. The unknown had a name now. I exhaled slowly, feeling the tension leave my chest for the first time that night. "You're not broken," I said, steady and firm. "But this isn't something you hide either." And that's where things began to change. Not instantly, not perfectly, but honestly. In the days that followed, Lena saw a specialist. A combination of post-surgical trauma and anxiety, they said. Treatable, but only if acknowledged. Daniel became more attentive, less assuming, more present. Their conversations grew heavier, but real. And Milo, he stopped second-guessing himself. A week later, we sat at the same table again. Simpler meal, softer atmosphere. Lena didn't pretend this time. She took small, careful steps, honest ones. Milo leaned toward me quietly. "Is she okay now?" I looked at Lena, then back at him. "She's trying," I said. "And that's what matters." He nodded. No fear, no whisper, just understanding. And for the first time since that night, everything on the table was exactly what it seemed.